Well, this week, Donald Trump heads into a critical meeting with China, but he's weakened and he's overextended, and he's still stuck in a war in Iran that's actively reshaping global power away from Washington. This is a war that's now stretching into its 11th week with no clear end in sight as it drains American resources and strains diplomatic ties just 2 days before this high-stakes meeting with China, our biggest adversary. For generations, Americans understood the presidency carried a unique responsibility in moments of international crisis, not just to command the military, but to clearly explain and guide and reassure the public and America's allies that there is a coherent strategy behind the deployment of American power. But as Trump prepares for this upcoming 2-day summit with the leader of China, Xi Jinping, he hasn't done any of that. And it's hurting our standing in the world. And today, on day 72 of Donald Trump's war in Iran, China now sees the United States as a, quote, giant with a limp, end quote. The New York Times reports, quote, to some Chinese military and geopolitical analysts, the war has done more than deplete U.S. munitions stockpiles. It has also shattered America's aura of dominance. They argue that it's exposed a major flaw in U.S. war strategy, its inability to make weapons quickly enough to replenish its arsenal in a sustained, intense conflict. This depletion has significantly diminished the U.S. military's ability to project its combat power, laying bare the shortcomings of its global military hegemony, said Yue Gang, a retired colonel of the People's Liberation Army, in an interview. The Atlantic warns that Washington may be no longer capable of reversing or even controlling the consequences of America losing the war in Iran. Quote, there will be no return to the status quo ante, no ultimate American triumph that will undo or overcome the harm done. The Strait of Hormuz will not be open as it once was. With control of the strait, Iran emerges as the key player in the region and one of the key players in the world. The roles of China and Russia as Iran's allies are strengthened. The role of the United States substantially diminished. Far from demonstrating American prowess, as supporters of the war have repeatedly claimed, the conflict has revealed an America that is unreliable and incapable of finishing what it started. That's going to set off a chain reaction around the world as friends and foes adjust to America's failure. Even if Trump were to carry out his threat to destroy Iran's civilization through more bombing, Iran would still be able to launch many missiles and drones before its regime went down, assuming it did go down. Just a few successful strikes could cripple the region's oil and gas infrastructure for years, if not for decades, throwing the world and the United States into a prolonged economic crisis. Even if Trump wanted to bomb Iran as part of an exit strategy, looking tough as a way of masking his retreat, he can't do that without risking this catastrophe. If this isn't checkmate, it's close, end quote. This isn't checkmate, it's close. Yesterday, Donald Trump rejected Iran's latest peace proposal to end the war, posting, quote, I've just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable. The Washington Post reports, quote, Iran's news outlets indicated that the proposal was similar to Tehran's position during the previous negotiating exchange, calling for an official end to the war, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, withdrawal of all naval vessels enforcing a U.S. blockade, lifting of U.S. sanctions, an effective ceasefire in Lebanon, and an additional 30 days of talks to iron out the details. Iran has proposed that all discussions of its nuclear program be the subject of subsequent negotiations. Today, the Speaker of Iran's parliament had this message for Donald Trump. There is no alternative but to accept the rights of the Iranian people as laid out in the 14-point proposal. Any other approach will be completely inconclusive, nothing but one failure after another. The longer they drag their feet, the more American taxpayers will pay for it. That came after Donald Trump said this about a ceasefire.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living.
During what was supposed to be a maternal health care event in the Oval Office, Donald Trump launched into a meandering and at sometimes surreal monologue after he was asked about this really important upcoming trip to China. Trump began by saying that he has a great relationship with President Xi. Then he went on to call Iranian leaders lunatics before marveling at what he described as the coolness of military operators intercepting missiles within seconds.
We had 111 shot at one of our ships over a very short period of time. Out of 111 missiles going at 3,000 miles an hour, all 111 missiles were knocked down into the ocean long prior to arriving at the target. And the coolest guys are the guys that do this. You know, they're not brawn, they're brain. They sit there, missile shot. You got to see it happening. Missiles coming. They got like about 13 seconds to make a decision. It's not like, gee, let's figure it out. They make a wrong calculation. You know, you lose a lot of men and a lot of $1 billion times 10 ships. So, but there's a level of coolness that missile shot meant they look, ba, 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 and you know, they're going, heading 47 degrees north, 1,300 feet, going 3,000 miles an hour. Okay, we have it in our sight. Fire, boom. 10 seconds left. Let me tell you, they need smart people. Mm-hmm. These people are smart. Amazing. And they're so smart that they're cool.
To be clear, nobody disputes the extraordinary skill of American service members operating missile defense systems under pressure. But what Americans heard from the president today was not clarity. The lack of clarity from the president of the United States carries consequences. Today, The Atlantic's Vivian Salama writes, quote, in the past, Trump supporters and even many U.S. allies viewed Trump's famous unpredictability as unorthodox, but at times effective, a useful means of wrong-footing opponents or shaking up the tired status quo. Many now see something more unsettling in Trump's international relations, including in the 10-week war. What was once viewed as strategic unpredictability now feels like destabilizing unreliability.